What's going on, beautiful people of the internet? Okay, so I'm doing a little something different. I don't have one of my DJI mics on. This episode is inspired by my playlist slash series called The Revisit. I'm actually using one of my professional mics right now. I'm not being lazy today. I normally use my DJI little minis and just plug in the hot shoe and call it a day. I said, you know what? Let me actually put in a little bit of effort today, especially when it comes to the audio side of things. But anyways, that's not the point of this video. I'm using the 416, by the way, if I didn't say that, going directly into my FX3. Um, so I am starting to think about the state of the camera industry and how we're like in this Goldilocks era right now. I know I'm not the first one to say that. I'm just like agreeing with it, right? We're in this perfect era of like being the first ones to experience having these newer technology, or not new technology, but this cinema camera technology trickle down into the more consumer cameras, right? Like the $4,000 to $6,000 range and down. Typically, you would never really see that. They were gatekeeping that technology for those more expensive cameras. Now we have come into an era to where that is kind of the gates have been opened, and they are allowing us finally to get cinematic features or cinema features, not cinematic, cinema features, cinema camera features in these cheaper cameras. But it got me thinking, who's the global leader in sales? I thought it was Sony for so long. My ignorant self did not realize it was Canon until I looked it up. And it's like a decent gap, okay? Like 40 to 28%. Like most people are shooting Canon globally. Did not know that, okay? I learned something new every single day. But here's what I really was looking for. Where's Nikon in all of this? Because I kind of knew like Sony and Canon are like 1 and 2. Canon number 1, Sony number 2. Where's the rest of everybody? That's what really got me curious about this. Yes, Nikon is way down there. But I think they're number 3. They're number 3, but they're way down there, okay? But I was very curious because I'm curious to know what other people think as well. I think now that Nikon has merged with Red, they've purchased Red. I think the game has completely changed. I think in the next 5 years we're going to see something change in the camera industry. I don't think Canon's going to. I don't think anyone's touching Canon. They just sell too many cameras. But what I do think is Sony's not safe. Sony has kind of just been sitting on their hands, being lackadaisical at this point. Nikon, we're starting to see something special merge out of this merger, if that makes sense. We're starting to see. We've seen the first camera that has been like the brainchild of both of these camera companies. And to be honest, I'm going to be completely honest. It's a half-assed attempt, and I mean that respectfully. There's nothing wrong with the Nikon ZR. I don't mean that in a negative way, but I'm saying the Nikon ZR is basically is it a Z6 Mark III? The camera already exists. They just added Red RAW into it. But again, it's a fantastic camera, and the price is just right. And the reason I say half-assed attempt, just to clarify, is because I know something big is coming. I mean, I don't actually know, but you can feel it. You know what I mean? You see what they've done, and you see the price. You start to realize, wait a minute, we're going to start getting some Red technology in these cheaper camera bodies. And that is exciting. Now, we all know Red is a reputable brand. Like, Red is one of the brands that you talk about in the camera industry. And when you think about cinema cameras and things like that, along with Arri and Sony, Canon, not so much. I know they have their lineup, but it's just not as talked about. Maybe in like the documentary scene, it's talked about and it's respected. Like, I know I'm talking weird, but listen, Canon is very well respected when it comes to their cinema cameras. But I just think like Hollywood, and the big box office cameras, no one really talks about Canon like that. That's what I'm trying to say. But anyways, I think Sony is in jeopardy. That's my whole point of this video. I don't think Sony will potentially be the number 2 on this list for very long if they continue down the path that they're going now. I think 2026 is going to determine that, what happens next with Sony. If they flop on all 3 of the cameras that people are expecting to come out within 2026 and 2027, I think Nikon's going to take over. Because, again, of the red technology. And I do believe these red cameras are going to get cheaper. They're going to, I believe Nikon is going to offer us a red camera that is closer to a product, brand new, that most people can afford. And I mean like under $4,000, okay? I believe, they kind of already doing that, but something with a Nikon logo, but it's basically a red camera. It's a merger between the two. And when they start doing that on a consistent basis, giving you the red technology with the dynamic range of a red camera or something close to it, Sony's going to be number 3. But anyways, I'm curious to know what you guys think about that. I just think it's going to happen. Barring anything Sony does, if Sony comes out and they just hit the mark with their next 3 cameras, I think they can stave off Nikon for a little bit longer. But I think inevitably, Nikon is going to be number 2 in the future. They already have that reputation when it comes to DSLR cameras, and especially when it comes to photography, right? And they really do have a nice color science for their cameras. The one thing that Sony has struggled with is their color science, even to this day, especially with their cameras under $4,000. They just, sure, we got S-Cinetone, but for some reason, there's a huge gap in between their cinema camera color science and their consumer to pro-consumer color science. For some reason, there's just this disconnect, this big wide margin. I don't get it. Why not just give us those colors? You can't cannibalize those cinema cameras, okay? You just can't. Nobody can afford those cameras. And it looks like, the industry loves the image and they love the color science. Why not give it to us little consumers down here? But if they don't do that, and Canon continues to be Canon, and then Nikon comes and starts giving you red color science and $3,000 bodies, $3,000 bodies or less, or even $4,000 bodies. I don't think Sony's going to last. I think Sony will be eventually number 3. But anyways, I'm curious to know what you guys think. I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm excited about Nikon. We can take our glass to Nikon with their adapter. With an adapter, we can take Sony lenses, E-mount, over to Z-mount. That is another thing that's exciting and a potential for Sony to lose customers, because it's hard to take Sony glass over to Canon and vice versa. To find the lenses that actually work, but it seems from all the things that I've seen from the Nikon ZR, most of the lenses talk to the Nikon ZR. So, hey, I'm saying it here first. I think Nikon is going to be number 2 in the future. All right. See you guys in the next video.